I'll just, okay.
Go ahead.
Hi, I know I look kind of crazy, but I'm not. I'm actually a genius in disguise. My name is Zed Noel. And about 35 years ago, I had a job, I had a marriage, I had just everything. I was making, what, $25,000 a year. With overtime, I was making almost $50,000 a year. And then what happened? Okay, my mother was dying of terminal cancer. My ex-wife, now my ex-wife, decided that she liked women more than men. And after I gave her a second baby, she didn't need me anymore. I was just convenient. And my job, what? They changed over, you know, insurance. You had to know all this extra stuff, but they didn't want to pay you the extra money to do that. So I got stressed out. And the closer my mother got to death, I flipped out. And they said, why don't you take a 3-day vacation at the mental health place across the street. The place I worked at, they provide their own insurance, so you couldn't just go anywhere. You had to go where they didn't have to pay, where it was free. I walked in, I'm here, I got a problem, blah, blah, blah. Okay, fine. We need to do this and this and this and this, and sign here, sign here, sign here, sign here. And at some point, my brain flipped and I said, okay, once I sign all these papers, I'm never come back out. And I started yelling. I didn't want to do this. I want to leave. No. Bam, a $3-day voluntary hold went to a 10-day involuntary hold. That 10-day involuntary hold went to a 20-day hold. Now, they can't make you stay past 10 days without having a judge come in. So they had a circuit judge come in, read the nurse's notes, doctor's notes, everything else, and it's okay, he needs to stay longer. Okay. Eventually, it was 30 days. From 30 days, they just wrapped another 30 days on, make it 60. Okay. During the last week of that 60, my employer said, okay, how much longer are you going to be gone, because we can't hold your job forever. So, okay, I talked to the doctor. I said, I want to sign out against medical advice. I went back, I worked for 10 days, and I flipped the second time. This time, another 10 days. The first time, I was in a locked unit. The second time, I was in a semi-open unit, which means I had to sleep there at night, but I could leave on a pass. So then, I went back to work. I went 6 months, and I threw out my back. And for 5 years, I had workers' comp. And then after 5 years, okay, well, we want you to come back to work, but without restrictions. And I said, I can't do that. I said, well, then you have to have back surgery. I said, I didn't necessarily want to have back surgery. So, okay, well, then we're just going to medically furlough you out. So a job that was short of 20 years, about a week short of 20 years and 1 day, and I'm out of the job. Now, how is that significant? I was covered under a union contract. If I worked 20 years and 1 day, I would have been given a special ID badge, and that would have represented money. I would have got 20% off every time I was hospitalized, 20% off my bills for doctor's visits, for medication, and everything. Plus, I got 20% off on my meals that I ate at either the coffee shop or the cafeteria, and they kept me on their mailing list for publications and lectures and all that stuff that usually costs people money. I would get that for free. So that was a large chunk of money that they said, okay, because you're no longer there, because you sued us to get benefits and all, you're not entitled to any of that. 5 years, all I had after that was unemployment, which gave me enough money to pay my rent and pay child support, but not enough money for food. And I would come out at night because I didn't want to deal with people. That was just too much for my brain. And then one night, I'm following a bunch of homeless people. I'm saying, okay, these people have food. How do they eat at night, in the middle of the night when everything is closed? And so I followed them until I got behind the Ralphs off of Sunset and Western. Okay, nowadays, they have these giant trash compactors behind the markets, or the dumpsters are locked. Back then, they were unlocked. At 5:30 every morning, they would unwrap the old bologna and save the plastic wrap and throw it in the dumpster. They take all the old frozen yogurt, all the old ice cream, all that stuff. They take the lid off so they could get credit from the company, but the rest would be in there. I'd come with a shopping cart, and I'd have more groceries for free than it would cost me $200 if I had to pay for it. So that's how, and for 2 years, I lived like that. I had free food, and I had enough money with the unemployment to pay my rent and my child support. From there, I finally decided, hey, I need some help. I went to a mental health provider, and I talked to a psychologist. He said, you talk more like a drunk and a junkie. We're not going to accept you. So you need to go over to this other place. I went to a place called Behavioral Health Sciences or Services, something like that, off of Highland and across from Hollywood High School. I went there for 18 months. Went to 3 meetings a day and learned about recovery and all that sort of stuff, and had something called peer support and case management. Now, my case manager had 6 months of alcohol recovery, yet he was living with his wife, who's still a practicing alcoholic. And he had a teenager that was in jail for 25 to life because he killed somebody during a dope deal that went bad. Okay, so he's helping me, okay, and his situation is almost worse than mine. Then after 18 months, they gave me a referral back to the place where I originally wanted to get mental health care from. I ended up being involved with them for 10 years. I became the editor of their client newsletter. Then I was involved with, I became involved with a group called the Client Coalition, which is a bunch of mental health consumers that are now working to lobby for change against forced hospitalization, against forced drug use, against them bringing back electroshock therapy as a method of treatment. So that's some of what I'm about. I'm also become a certified activist for the homeless because the homeless represent money and job security. As long as there's homeless, the service providers, employees have a job. If LA were to solve homelessness within 6 months, 2/3 of all the service providers would go out of business, and those people would be unemployed, or in other words, they would be the ones that are homeless now seeking help.